And welcome, family, to another wonderful, entertaining, educating edition of We All Be News Free Dixie for the 21st century. And we have a special show today, of course. We are celebrating the 2020 Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival. Is our first virtual online edition because of what's going on in the world today. It's been truly an unusual year, unusual times, and I still thank the Most High that I'm still alive, broadcasting live to you all out there. And we're doing this under Jimmie Lunceford, jazz great, giant Jimmie Lunceford, real king of swing, who actually started the first jazz studies program in a formal educational setting in any place in the world. And he started that in Manassas High School back in the 1920s in North Memphis. He took the best students from that band and his buddies from Fisk, the great altoist Willie Smith and pianist Edwin Wilcox, along with guitarist, I believe, A.L.L Norris, and formed the greatest swing band of the 30s and 40s. There was the house band at the Cotton Club in 1934. There was the number one attraction at the Apollo Theater for a whole decade. And they really set the standard for swing bands and for Showtime. So it is an honor that in these extraordinary times and even difficult times, exceptional times, that we are able to honor a true protege, a disciple of the Memphis sound, of that tradition, proud Manassas High alum, there's a wonderful musician, come from actually Memphis music royalty, and we're honoring him as our 2020 Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival Homecoming Court King. Truly a king in so many different ways. I give to you, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, the wokish and the sleepish, the people and the sheeple, the one and only, our dear brother, Bobby LaVelll. How you doing today, sir? I think you got your mic, your mute. You got your mute on. I'm trying to unmute it. Your mic is muted. You got to unmute your mic.
Now.
Okay, we hear you. Yeah. Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fine. I'm doing fine. The pandemic is keeping me inside, but that's okay. I can work it out some kind of way. So, and I do remember, I remember you well, Ron, now that I see your face, because you gave me the award that my father received, I think in 2017. In fact, I have it here. When I saw your face,
yeah, Honeymoon Gardener. You come from royalty, man. Your father was an amazing musician, and you part of that tradition, man. Like, how was it to grow up in a household with your father being who he was?
Oh man, it was really interesting because like most people, when we are close to a person who is a celebrity, he's a celebrity to you guys. He's not a celebrity. He was daddy, pop, and so it was a bit of a difference. But as I grew older, I grew to appreciate, his artistry and his musicianship to a great degree. He was a tremendous influence on me. In fact, I remember hearing Lockjaw on radio once, and I didn't even know what a saxophone was at the time, and I just said, Pop, I don't know what that is, but I want to do that.
You're my Eddie Lockjaw Davis, right?
I heard Eddie Lockjaw Davis,
great saxophone, yes.
And that's I love the sound of the saxophone, the tenor in particular, which I'm still partial towards now. And I guess when he found out that I was serious about it, he decided that the one person to teach me would be Fred Ford. So he arranged for that to happen. In fact, there was a house on McLean Avenue that he either bought or he rented, but I came to live at that house, and Fred came to live at that house as well. And I remember I would get up and I would practice and I pull out my music and everything, and I would try to impress him. He didn't have much to say to me. He just, for days. So I guess as much as 2 weeks, it wasn't much more than good morning, good night.
Yes,
And
sir.
then he walked up to me one day and he said, "Lubba-doop, boo-ba-doop." I said, "What?" He said, "Boo-ba-doop, boo-ba-doop." He mimicked a phrase. He said, "Play it." And I played that phrase. And so that started me down the road of several months of working that out. He said, "Play it in all 12 keys." And he did that 3 times throughout that year. And around the end of the year, he said, "Now put them together." And it turned out to be a and it was the language of the music tied into that. That was as much music as he ever gave me. Everything else was about life, you know. And he did look at me one day and he said, "Remember, you know, you got music in you. Play what you hear." And that was significant because I can remember later, there was a friend of mine, pianist, and he understood classical pianists. And it's not George Caldwell. You know, George Caldwell and I, you know, met later under different circumstances. But this particular guy, his name was Wayne McClellan up here in New York. And I wanted him to explain to me classical musical composition, introduction, exposition, you know, recapitulation, all of that stuff. And he explained to me, and then he said, "Bobby, a lot of this stuff you're already doing." He said, "What you have to understand about music is the books came after the music." He said the books and the rules were determined by what the musicians were doing in various places. He said, so, and then all of a sudden with him saying that, what Fred had said to me, "You have music and you play what you hear." Because one of the main rules in composition is no parallel fifths or octaves. Where parallel fifths sound wonderful if you're looking for a certain texture, and especially in jazz music. So those rules were not applicable, you know, to what I was doing. So I had to violate those rules to imitate the people that I was enjoying.
Wow.
And that was just a significant philosophical note that went into my head that remains there.
Now, could you tell the people, because a lot of us are uninitiated, we don't know our history like that. But who was your father, Honeymoon Garden? What type of musician was he? Could you tell us in your way?
Well, see, most people, I shouldn't say most people, but many people knew him as a disc jockey. He was a disc jockey at DIA on WDIA. So, but he had the jazz show, and he had a half-an-hour jazz show. I forgot what time, like 4 to 4:30 or something like that every day, weekly, you know. And so that's why, but he also was a piano player, you know, a local piano player that played in various clubs and bars and what have you. And that's where a lot of his popularity came from. People loved him. Now, my pop wasn't the greatest soloist individual, but he was the greatest accompanist. The chords that he would play, the big, beautiful chords, the feel of the rhythm. He and Bill Tice could give you more rhythm. It was just an unbelievable rhythm. And you have to forgive me, man. You know, you caught me, you know, one of my number one hobbies is cooking.
Oh,
and I have to take a moment now to check my oven to not burn up my house. So
definitely do that.
It may happen throughout the interview. So I do apologize.
Oh, that's why it's like jazz. I got video. I know how to compromise.
Give me a moment. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So he was talking about his father was a disc jockey at WDIA. You know, WDIA, I talked about it a couple of times on the show, that WDIA was the first black radio program format in the country, where its radio format or programming was geared towards a black population, So WDIA premiered in 1948 with the first black radio program format in the country. And also other notable disc jockeys include B.B. King. He was a disc jockey at WDIA at one point. So I mean, it's a lot of this amazing history that runs through here.
B.B. King.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that. That's what I'm saying. Everything coming full circle. So yeah, you can talk about that. But I also want to talk about your father worked a lot with Fred Ford as well too. You talk about Fred Ford.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember Fred Ford. I don't remember Fat Sonny's real name, but Fat Sonny, he was a tenor player. You know, to work with Pop. The Shenny Walker, bass player. Clifford Akert, bass player, that worked with Pop for years that I remember working with. And you know, but because I was his son, all of the guys when I started to come around, they would kind of like cradle me musically.
Okay.
Like, nah, those are not the right changes, man. Those are the wrong chords for that song. You need to go and find the right changes, the right chords. Changes is a slang name we knew for the harmonic progression of music. And no, that melody is not quite right. There's not that's wrong, because there were a lot of books. They call them fake books, and I don't know why they call them fake books, because a lot of times the melodies would be incorrect, the chords would be incorrect. But they were the closest thing that a lot of us got to jazz music, because jazz music wasn't as respected as much, and it wasn't published like it is today.
Okay,
so my dad's influence, man, is the foundation, of me musically. He and my mother played piano, and she played for the church, and she read music as well. But more than that, they had an appreciation for all forms of music. And they would, we listened to classical music. We didn't always get it.
Right.
I got it a lot more after being at Manassas, because when you made the band, you made the marching band, but after marching band, after football season and going after the Christmas break, we would come back to concert season. And then we have concert music, and we were preparing then for the band and choir concert that happened in the spring. Wow. And we played a lot of classical music, and I got my love, for the challenges that it created, and for just the sound of the music also.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you spoke Manassas, like you read in my mind. 'Cause I want to talk about that impact or influence of Manassas on you. In particular, the band director, Mr. Emerson A.L.L. Jr., who's a disciple of Jimmie Lunceford. He loved Jimmie Lunceford, but he also loved you a lot, because when I would talk to him about you, he always bring you up and talk about the great things you've been doing in the world and how you really represent the Memphis sound as a great ambassador to that sound. He really thought the world of you.
Mr. A.L.L. was absolutely amazing, man. My first day coming to class, I was just a little late for class. And those of us who knew where the band room was a separate building from the school building at Manassas in those days. But Mr. Abel's office was, you could go into the band room going to your left where his office was, or to the right where there was a back door to the band room. And I'm trying to sneak in the back door because I know I'm a little late, and he caught me, and he stopped me, and he said, "Look here, let me make this very clear to you right now." He said, "I am your daddy's friend." He said, "I am your mother's friend." He said, "I don't care nothing about you. Get in my band room," and that was, and then this.
He said it just like that. He asked a curse word to
it. It had a little bit more flavor to it.
Yeah, you already know.
So that we don't have to go into.
Yes, sir.
But to make Mr. A.L.L. was absolutely a genius at teaching.
Yeah.
He taught you so much. In fact, I mentioned, as we were talking just last night, one of his things to do when you finally learn to read music, he would have you do, there's a technique in music called sight reading. That means you read a piece of music you've never seen before, and you read it correctly. There are levels of that music. But anyway, he would have us sight read something at least once a week, where you could not stop or go back to correct nothing, or to see if you played something, or why you missed that figure, why you were a little off. You had to read it from A to Z. And that really, it trained your eyes to see quicker. It trains your mind to discern the music, more immediate than you would ordinarily. And so it's just a wonderful thing that he did. But we played music, that I played a year later at Memphis State, now the University of Memphis. And some of the music that we were playing in the classic bands out there, we'd already seen the music, and we'd already been indoctrinated to that music, because that's the level that we were on under Mr. A.L.L.
That's right.
Yeah. So he was a tyrant, but he taught you well, man. I loved him very dearly. I talked all the time, before his death.
I can't believe it's been over 5 years now since
he made
his transition.
Time moves so fast.
It does. But you know what's sad? Like, you come from that proud tradition at Manassas, which was started by Jimmie Lunceford in the 20s. And then Miles Davis had to talk about it in his autobiography because all these dudes from like Harold Mayburn and the George Coleman kept on coming through his band in the early 60s, all from one high school in Memphis known as Manassas.
Mm-hmm.
Now you fast forward to today, they have a hard time keeping the program going. I mean, they got a strong alumni network, it seems, but the music program has been suffering for the last, basically 20 years. I would say 20, 15 years. They've been having a hard time at it. What's going on?
It's been longer than that.
Okay.
For one, the powers that be in this country suppress the music. There are various reasons. The record companies are run by businessmen and not people who are really sensitive to art.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about art anymore. It's about money and money only. And until there is a re-merging of the two, where you have to respect. I understand the almighty dollar, but art doesn't care anything about money. Art is a separate entity in and of itself. And this jazz music, that has its origin in Black people, is an art form. One of the reasons that it suffers is it. We try to be politically correct in the way we speak things,
right?
But people, the things that people of color have done in this country have been minimized to a great degree. And part of that is what's going on with this music, is because certain people don't have control or not involved in its origin or cannot take complete credit for it. They discredit it. Not those who play it, but a lot of those who listen to it. And so this music is still, in this country. An example of that, this music in this country has not been received the accolades and that it really should. And I remember in 1980, I went out of the country for the first time, and there was a wonderful festival in Nice, France. And they had 3 stages going at once, and they would hire people from various parts of the world to set up authentic restaurants, and stuff. And it was just a wonderful festival that went for about a week. But what was unique about this area is as you would walk through this area, you would see busts of famous and jazz musicians, and most of them were African Americans.
Wow.
Yeah, see, and you've never seen anything like that in this country. I mean, we are definitely recognized in areas, but not where anyone has put a conglomerate of the musicians from this country, in an area saying these are people, that are responsible for who we are musically, because so much of today's music fed on what these guys and what we do in the jazz area. That sophistication that the music acquired was because the jazz guys were writing, and they were bringing, in fact, when they started to bring strings into the popular music, it's you're kind of getting a little white with it, or you're getting a little this with it. But the fact of the matter was these guys were educating themselves musically. They were advancing and the music was advancing, but it was primarily the jazz guys. See, people forget Michael Jackson's greatest record, Off the Wall, I think.
Thriller. Yeah, my Thriller. Both Off the Wall and Thriller, but Thriller the best-selling album. But
Quincy Jones, is a producer, and he's writing this music. All of that wonderful music that came out of Motown, it's because Gil Askey and other jazz, what's his name? The piano player.
I would think about it, In the Shadows of Motown, the documentary.
Van Dyke, I can't think of his name now.
It'll come to you.
It just may not. Some things have walked out. I have to chase them down to get them back in my head.
I know how it is.
But the fact of the matter is, this music is still not being recognized for what it actually is and for what it has done and the influence that it's had upon the popular music. All of that wonderful music from the 60s, you can hear the jazz in it. It's just there. And the other thing that you can hear is you can hear the individuality in it too. And you don't hear as much of that in the music anymore. The music of today, that's the jazz music and popular music, in my humble opinion, is a little too clonish. The artists sound a little too much like each other. They don't have the freedom to be as individual as we used to be, in my opinion.
You know, you had a drummer from Motown, from Memphis, Richard Pistol Allen. That's his name, Richard Pistol Allen. I think he went to Manassas. But he was the drummer at Motown. They call him the Funk Brothers. That group
he was from Manassas, one of the Funk Brothers?
Yeah.
I know about the
drummer, yeah, Richard Allen. Yeah, they call him Pistol. He was from Manassas. He's from Memphis. They call him, you know, they did a documentary, In the Shadows of Motown. They talk about them.
I've seen it.
James, you in it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I've seen it.
Yeah, well, James Jamerson from the Carolinas, that bass guitar player was amazing. I mean, all them guys had jazz backgrounds, though. Like you said, all them guys had jazz backgrounds.
Yeah. I think the guy's name is Earl Van Dyke. I just can't be sure.
I'm gonna try to find yeah, Earl Van Dyke. That's him.
Yeah,
he's in here. This is the wonders of modern technology. I'm looking at
it's great, man. Put in
Earl Van Dyke. Yeah, that's the guy.
Gil Askey.
Yep.
You know, and I remember the first time I played with the Temptations, Gil Askey was the conductor. And this is I don't know how many of the guys. I think about 3 or 4 of them were still alive at this time.
Okay.
You know, and Gil was an incredible writer, man. He was the arranger for all of the music that they took on the road. And he was the most efficient rehearsal I've ever been in my life. We would look at certain things and we would rehearse certain things. Other things, he said, we will not rehearse this. This is a ballad. It will not be played very fast. Look it over. We will play it, blah, blah, blah. And boom, and it was done. Only certain sections where there was difficult figures or obscure figures would he rehearse. The rest of it he didn't. Just boom. And the music was just unbelievable, man. Wow. It reminds me of the first when I played with Ray Charles too. You know,
you gotta talk about what was the experience playing with Ray Charles? We know we had Hank Crawford for Manassas. He was his band director at one point, right? He directed the music for Ray Charles. Hank Crawford.
I don't know. I'm not sure of that. I know
you before your time, but I know he was.
No, but I just don't know the band director when I was in when I did it, and I was in the band only about 6 weeks. Was Cliff Solomon. Yeah, but I remember the music was just so beautiful. You know, I think we did had an arrangement by a guy named Larry Mahobarak. And the reason I remember him is because he did some arrangement for a guy that was a singer. I don't remember his name, but my dad brought him by the house after they finished the session. And I just remember sitting here, man, listening to all this beautiful music around me, man. It was such an experience. And Ray Charles was right here because I'm right up under him. You know, I'm going, wow, it was, but he leaned over at one point in the show and told me, "You're playing too damn loud, son."
That's awesome, man.
So, but it was a wonderful experience. I learned things. And that's when I met Rudolph Johnson, who's a wonderful saxophonist. I don't know where Rudy's home was. He was living in Los Angeles at the time. He did a few records on Black Jazz label back then. And, but he's another guy that influenced me to the point that I have things that he taught me that I still use.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Calvin Newborn, the great Calvin Newborn, guitarist, brother, and Phineas. We just lost him last December, I think. Last December.
Yeah.
2019. But he told me that Ray Charles just flies on airplanes. Like, you would be on an airplane with Ray Charles. He'd actually be flying the airplane.
Yeah, they would give him, I think it was called a Viscount. It was a little plane, and that was the plane that we flew most of the time. You know, it was an old prop plane. It wasn't turbo. It was prop. It had propellers. So I think the maximum speed may have been 500 miles an hour or something. I'm not sure. But it was very slow compared to the planes these days.
But they allow Ray Charles to fly that plane.
Ray would sometimes go up in the cockpit and he would take control, and he would lean the plane this way and lean the plane that way. And we knew that's when he had the control. So that happened a couple times when I was with the band. So that was
scary.
It bothers me at all, man. I'm a kid, man.
You ain't know no better.
I'm playing in Ray Charles's band, and I'm in my middle 20s. You know, I ain't scared of nothing. I ain't worried about a thing, man. Heck, it just didn't get any better.
Wow. What about your experience with B.B. King? I know he had a love for Memphis hornmen like George Coleman and Floyd Newman. So you part of that tradition with B.B. King. How was it working with B.B. King?
Well, you know, the only regret that I have with being with B.B. King is when I was with him, you know, I didn't have the love for the blues that I have for it now.
Right.
You know, I had just been introduced to John Coltrane and Charlie Parker. And they, you know, they would come in the dressing room and say, well, why are you playing that? We don't play that. That's jazz. We play blues. And they would always be kind of jumping on me about that. And I didn't really understand why y'all bothering me, man. This stuff is hard. I'm really trying to advance myself here, you know, and you kind of deterring it or trying to deter it in some kind of way. But I understand now, you know, that it probably would have been a lot better if I'd had more love for what that situation that I was in that I did. I respected it. Don't get me wrong. But I didn't have quite the passion for it that I do have today.
It's ironic that you named Charlie Parker and Coltrane because they were great blues players. I mean, Bird was a blues player.
We played blues, but it was different kind of blues. You know, you could play. They could play both. They could play. In fact, I have a book that I'm writing. In fact, the book is finished. I got to get it published.
Okay.
It's an introduction or a beginner's guide to jazz improvisation. And one of the things that I talk about is the blues, and I just introduced two types. You know, the what I call the B.B. King lowdown kind of blues, and the Charlie Parker blues, which has more gaiety, you know, and more changes in it. But they're both essentially, you know, blues forms.
You know, Bird, his daddy's from Memphis, though. Charlie Parker did. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, Clarksdale. They had roots in Clarksdale, but his daddy's from Memphis.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I listen to Charlie Parker. I said he's juking. Like we got, you know how they got the dance style from Memphis, like he's juking. He was juking on the saxophone to me, but I listen to Bird, he's like he just juking. Because his daddy was a tap dancer in the chitlin circuit and stuff. He did cooking and all that. But his father's from here. He's from Memphis.
Forgive me again. As I said, I am cooking.
Yeah, go ahead. That's your cue. So this is the one and only Bobby LaVelll, saxophone master, tremendous. Because when they think about Memphis, people think it's the home of the blues and rock and roll and barbecue, which is all true. But Memphis has a formidable jazz tradition. Like I talked about, Jimmie Lunceford starting the first jazz studies program anywhere in the world. It was in New Orleans, New York, or Chicago. It was in Memphis where he started that tradition among black kids, black students. Jimmie Lunceford's story should have been a Disney movie. It should have been a Remember the Titans. This guy was very inspirational, but he started something at Manassas that helped elevate Memphis' renowned sound. The Memphis sound is renowned worldwide and reaches everywhere. You understand? Because Memphis is an amazing place. Go to any of these schools like Booker T. Washington, the mother of gospel music, Lucy Campbell, taught at Booker T. Washington for years. She helped discover and train Dr. King's favorite singer from South Memphis, a guy named J. Robert Bradley, who just passed away not too long ago. That was his favorite singer. And also she was mentoring the Mahalia Jacksons and the Marian Andersons. Then you have a person like Maurice White, the founder of Earth, Wind & Fire. He went to Booker T. Washington High School. Then you also had the late, great Johnny Ace, John Marshall Alexander Jr., arguably the first rock and roll star, started with the Bill Streeters with B.B. King. But, you know, he went to Booker T. Washington High School. So you got all these different schools in Memphis that got amazing, rich musical traditions that should be better known among the people. But we're here with Bobby LaVelll, the 2020 Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival Homecoming Court King, talking about his journey, his life experiences. So what is it about Memphis that produced these phenomenal horn men like yourself? I mean, so many of y'all come out of here.
Well,
I think about Sonny Stitt. I love Sonny Stitt.
Oh, people, man.
Sonny Stitt, but Sonny Chris.
Sonny Chris.
I love Sonny Chris, man. People sleep on him. People be sleeping on Sonny Chris, man.
I don't know. You have to mention Evelyn Young to Newt, and because I remember meeting her early at the Club Paradise.
Mm.
I don't know. Do you remember or know anything about Club Paradise?
Educate us, man. That's why we got you on here. We want to educate the
Club
people.
Paradise was an old bowling alley that was turned into a club, and all of the local stars, well, not local stars, national stars would come when they would come there. So Club Paradise was one of the places that they would perform at.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, I became a part of the Club Paradise band at one time, So, and Evelyn Young, Newt, was one of the people. And once again, I was cradled because I was a honeymoon son.
That's right.
They cradled me, and just took care of me and tried to teach me and help me along the way, But I couldn't tell you what it is about Memphis, that attracted W.C. Handy
Mm-hmm.
and so many others, and why there was this flock of musicians that came out of there over the years. But we just have a love for the music,
Yeah, but
has a love for us. I really felt like all my life I had chosen the music, and I really have found out that the music chose me, decided on me. Now you come with me. I don't come with you. You follow me. So right. It's been that powerful.
Well, like somebody like Miles Davis, right? Well, he took the time out of his autobiography to talk about Manassas High School, all these side men like the Harold Mayburns and Frank Strozers and George Coleman coming through his band. He talked about Booker Little. All these people coming through Manassas. What are they doing at that one school? And Miles Davis's hero growing up was Jimmie Lunceford. He used to listen to Jimmie Lunceford on the radio, broadcast live from the Cotton Club over in East St. Louis. I don't think Miles Davis, even when Miles Davis said you could sum up jazz history in 4 words, Louis Armstrong, Charlie Parker. Both of them guys got strong Memphis ties. Like you look at Louis Armstrong, his second wife, Lil Harder Armstrong, made him a superstar. She was the pianist for his mentor, King Oliver, and she was the one that forced him to quit the band, Senator Fletcher Henderson's band up in New York, became a star at the Roseland Ballroom back in 24, came back to Chicago, helped reorganize the Hot 5 and Hot 7 recordings, which is the foundation for not just jazz, but modern American music. That's a black woman from Memphis that did that.
I can see you're much more of a historian than I am.
Think about it, but think about this though.
Great. I mean, I'm learning. Yeah. I'm learning some things myself, which is. So
you always do the research, but I'm saying everywhere Louis Armstrong went, Memphis guys made him a better player. Like his wife made him a superstar. When he was playing outside of King Oliver's band, he played for the Erskine Tate Orchestra in Chicago, very popular black Negro orchestra. Erskine Tate was from Memphis, used to play for W.C. Handy. He went to New York, joined Fletcher Henderson band. Buster Bailey, one of the greatest clarinetists of that era, was a guy from Memphis. All these guys were born in Memphis, played in W.C. Handy band. The top trumpet player in New York was a guy named Johnny Dunn, who was from Memphis and played for W.C. Handy. So all these Memphis cats, he kept running. It helped elevate his game. Wow. I mean, Memphis is a powerful jazz mecca that they don't get the recognition like a New Orleans or a place like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh got phenomenal jazz. Matter of fact, Mary Lou Williams, who grew up in Pittsburgh, she was living here in the 1920s. She was married to a Memphis cat named John Overton Williams, who was a saxophonist for Annie Kirk band. But her and Jimmie Lunceford used to hang out back here in the 20s. This is the 1920s. You got Jimmie Lunceford and Mary Lou Williams, really who helped validated Monk and was like the godmother of bebop. I mean, just phenomenal arranger, composer, piano master. All these folks came through Memphis, though.
Well, man, all I can say, I remember when I first started to travel, when I would tell people I was from Memphis, they would definitely perk up and listen. So I know that I was from an area that was respected. And this is globally,
That's right.
No matter where you were in the world, if they knew that you were from Memphis, they would lend an extra ear, to say the least.
It still happens today with me. Like I tell them I'm from Memphis, they love the rappers. Even the rappers get love all over the place. Sure. But I'm saying, what is it about? Why you think it is that Memphians don't know this? Like, why do we think we can't appreciate this worldwide acclaim or renown?
We have to support this music. We just still have to have more people to support this music, we have to direct it towards the children so that they can learn it again. They're not playing it as much as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to understand the significance of it to the world. This music is not going anywhere. I don't care how unpopular you may think it is. You know, I was looking at a scale that they created, and jazz music was at the bottom of that scale in popularity.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, wow, that's really, really interesting. You know, and it may be very true, because like I've said before, man, when you put money in front of art, that's a real delicate area, because we need money.
That's right.
You know, to be able to continue it, but the money can't be the overruling factor with the artist himself. You know, when in my opinion, when an artist gets to the point where money overrules his art is diluted to us. You know, he just keep your. But that's why artists need someone around them to help them to do that, to create funds so that they can be free. You know, but they forced us into being kind of this a business art person. You know I'm forced into it. You know, I have to try to make some money, because if I don't get some money, they're gonna put me out of my house.
They don't care if it's a pandemic going on, right?
I can't practice in the snow. Please excuse me, man.
That's no problem. You good. But yeah, this is one and only Bobby LaVelll. Truly a brilliant musician. Really a great ambassador of the Memphis sound. And you are listening to Brother Ron Hurd. This is We All Be TV. This is the 2020 Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival virtual edition. Like, we couldn't do it like we normally do. Every other year we'll be out in the community. So we having the beloved community meet us online virtually to celebrate Black excellence in music, in the arts, and also to tell our story from our own terms. This is what I pride myself on as Brother Ron, visionary behind the We All Be info movement. You know, so I'm glad that everybody been able to receive this information. Take a look. It's all online. You won't waste your time if you feed your mind. See, I made all that up. That's jazz, because jazz is life. It's about living in the moment. It's about making a way when they say there's no way. Sometimes you go around, over, or under a problem. Sometimes you got to go through something to have something to say. You got to go through stuff sometimes. So the blues is important. Blues is living. Jazz is living. But it's what you make of it, because your life is your movie, and you decide and create the soundtrack to it. So Bobby LaVelll, everything good?
Oh, everything's working out just fine.
All right. It's like
I had an aspiration. Well, I still have. It's just trying to get around to all the things that I want to do. Doing a cookbook called The Jasmine, and it's going to be simple recipes that are really tasty, and it's going to be a jazz pictorial as well. But jazz musicians who like this particular dish might like this particular dish, a picture, you know, and just a small bio of that particular person. In fact, it may now that you think about it, I may have to focus it on Memphis.
You should. You say call it jazzing. You call it.
I was going to call it the Jasmine. We can call it something else. So, but I'm just thinking as I learn from you about musicians that I don't even know about, it may be I could refocus it and do a short pictorial of musicians from Memphis.
You definitely do. You know,
yeah. So you and I, we'll have to talk about that off screen.
That sounds like a great
effort.
You make a CD, you create a CD with as well, have a soundtrack to it. I mean, I can see a lot of things. It's a different time for us.
There's a lot of stuff to think about, you know, because our history is very important. And it's important that we tell the history. It's just like I'm writing my own autobiography. It's important for me to tell that story. It's important for the listeners to know of my experiences and for them to hear my voice, you know, and not hear somebody else tell them about me. I'll tell you about me. I can tell you, you know, better about me than anyone.
Yes, sir.
I can tell you, I think he felt this when he was writing this. You don't know what I was feeling. No, I'll tell you what I was feeling.
That's right.
You know, and I don't mean that in an insulting way, because a lot of people are they're endeavoring to feel something from people that they admire. So when they do that, but because everybody wasn't willing to sit down and take the time to put down notes or to feed into someone else, you know, how they actually felt about certain things when they were doing certain things, then the writer has to speculate. You know, in my case, you won't have to speculate. I'll tell you.
It's important you
And
say
that's
that.
important, you know.
No, it's very important.
Yeah, because it's important to let young people know tenacity is something that you really don't want to take cheaply. You know, people don't understand today. Here I am, a man of my age, and why I get up every day and practice. You know what that kind of commitment is all about, and you know what it. You know, in fact, I had friends that say, "Boy, you've been practicing that for every day for weeks. Ain't you got it? Don't you get it? Aren't you finished with it?" Well, no, you never finish. It's in the day that I die, I will be working on something. My brain will be digging into something new. And that's the good part.
That's a beautiful way to live, though. That's a beautiful way to look at it. You have something to live for, something that you're always constantly learning.
You have a challenge. You all have. I believe that you really need a challenge at all times, working towards something. You know, for me, it's important to live that way. You know, I don't want it to be so obsessive that I'm losing it as I do this, but it is nice to have a challenge, and it's nice to see growth in something that you learn. I remember Miles said that he's the same way. He said, "Man, I learned something the other day, and I can't wait to apply it." I'm the very same way with things. You know, I've learned something. Boy, I can't wait to see how it works out.
Do you see what I'm saying, Mr. Brother LaVelll? There's a comment from my comment section.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah, but these people out, it's an audience out. But you know what's interesting? Jazz was once the popular music when it was a dancing music during Jimmie Lunceford's era of the 30s and 40s. It was its most popular when it was people was able to dance to it. So what changed? I mean, you think people stopped listening because the music went another way with the bebop stuff, or I could dance off of bebop. I don't know what people talking about. You can't dance off certain type of jazz.
What?
But what happened?
I can't say specifically, but I remember the scene from the Bird movie when the music was changing. He grabbed the guy's horn. He said, "I just want to know if the horn could play more than one note at a time," because the guy was just riffing off of one note, you know. And one of the things that has to happen is people have to understand the importance of this music, first of all. And we specifically as Black people need to understand this is a part of our heritage. This is a part of who we are. And this is a part of a gift that we gave to the entire world.
That's right.
And we should be very proud of it. But the music has been directed. Gosh, you know, I don't want to start a great controversy with this.
Go ahead. We're here for that. Go ahead.
A good friend of mine who is white, who said the music was directed towards, you know, the white educated places. He said one of the things that someone they said, this music, to play this music, you have to think, you know, and to do that, we don't really want this, you know, in the hood, basically, you know, and that was a effort, you know, for others to take over the music, and it worked. It worked. But like I say, the other thing that worked is that the music that's popular today makes a lot of money. And a rap is so much fun. It is a lot of fun, but it's not always, in my opinion, music, because it's missing a lot of the elements. My opinion, and this is probably going to start some trouble. In my opinion, it is rhythm and rhyme. It's good rhythm and rhyme. It's great rhythm and rhyme. But music is involved in so much else is involved. A technique called diminution, where you squeeze a phrase down numerically, because music is mathematics also. Or augmentation, where you take that same thing and you elongate it or pull it out. You know, sequencing, where you hear something here and it modulates to another, the very same thing. There are a lot of other elements that don't even come into mind with what's going on in there. Today, you get a beat, you get a riff, and you in it, and it's fun, but it has a it had some limitations, you know.
But is that by design though? Because they cut out funding for music
Absolutely.
programming,
Because of
can't
what
afford the
happened,
instruments. Yeah,
the
that's
people who are behind it are business people.
mm-hmm.
They don't have any artistic sensitivity.
Mm.
They only want to make money, whatever makes money. In fact, there's too much what I call cloning going on in the music. You hear too many people who sound like their predecessors, sound like each other.
Yeah.
There's not quite the individuality that was once in the music. When you listen to the radio during the 60s, you could hear Stevie Wonder. You knew you were listening to Stevie. When you heard Earth, Wind, and Fire, you knew it was Earth, Wind, and Fire. When you heard Sly and the Family Stones, you knew it was Sly. And that went on from group to group to group. What's my other favorite group out of Newark, New Jersey? The Isley Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And Delphonics, all those different groups, they were popular groups, but they had individuality. The music of today does not quite have the same individuality. You have to listen really or know who you're listening to know who it is. And that happens in the jazz music too. I've heard you can hear some jazz soloists and they sound wonderful, you know, and you can hear but you have to wait later to find out who it is. You don't have to do that with Train.
No,
you don't have to do that with Bird, and you don't have to do it with a lot of them, because that kind of individuality, you know, was celebrated and it was respected. It's not as respected as much now as it once was.
But you know what? You saying all that, I'm thinking about Thelonious Monk, who struggled a lot during his career. Like, his music's everywhere now, but you know, late night shows and commercials. But he had to pay a price. But thank God he had a jazz baroness, right? He had a benefactor. She served in the wife duties. I'm talking about the jazz baroness. Yeah, go ahead.
I know.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it's a struggle. You pay a price to be original. There's a price to be paid to have an authentic voice. Thelonious Monk once said, even if it take you 20 years to get an audience, keep doing what you're doing. It took him that long to get you get some type of commercial success. He struggled mightily. We talked about that. I talked about that last night with the review, how he deal with police brutality, lost his cabaret card. And he one time was at a gig where nobody showed up for the whole week. This is in New York City. So Monk paid a price. So you got to pay a price for that type of originality.
Yeah, no, you do. Because Monk, man, people didn't get it with Monk, man.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't even get it now.
They don't.
You know.
I love him though, man. I didn't get it at first. I said, what the hell was this? Well, I heard it the first time. I said, I don't get this. I listened to it more and more. Everything he did was logical. It made sense to me.
Look here, man. As a young kid, he had to grow on me too. So
you're a great musician, so you said you couldn't get it at first either, huh?
Not when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, when I was very young, when I first started playing, somebody let me listen to John Coltrane's Countdown.
Oh man! Oh my God!
It was brilliant. I didn't get it. Mine didn't develop to that point. So there is some developing that has to happen, you know, with listening to jazz music. You have to sit down and listen. But with popular music, all of a sudden you're into the beat, you know, and it's repetitive, and the next thing you know, boy, oh shoot, yeah, it has a primitive kind of grab,
yeah.
And that's what your the people who are running the record companies realize, and that's what they want. They want what's the hook? In fact, that's what it's called, the hook. They want to know what is that little phrase, what is that little thing that's going to be repetitive, that's going to hypnotize people. And that's all that's important.
But you know what's interesting? You saying that, I'm thinking about this beat. This like it's a conspiracy, like you said, in a way, because Charlie Parker Now's the Time is the foundation for the Huckleberry. Why is the Huckleberry more popular? Yeah. But why? What's the difference though? I don't understand. Like, why wasn't that more popular? Why could people just say
because that's what you hear. See, if you notice, you don't hear no jazz much on radio. You don't. The kids don't grow up hearing it. You know, I taught some little kids at one time, and when they finally got to the point where they could read, I wrote them out some little jazz things, and boy, they were so proud, and they were we're playing jazz music, which is the music of our ancestors, you know, which is a art form of music that, you know, that was developed in this country, you know, and you should have seen them, you know, but because they don't hear it. It's been taken away from them. You know, it's almost as bad as the lies that have been told historically. Yeah. You know, I mentioned Jeffrey Robinson, and I have to mention him again because he's from Memphis.
Yeah, bring him up. Yeah, bring him up in this conversation.
You know, Jeffrey Robinson has a series of lectures that he does, and he talks about the stolen history, where we don't recognize what happened historically in this country to Black people. You know, even to he has one where he talks about the Confederate monuments that people are somewhat disgruntled about being removed, and they should be removed. They should be in a museum, and that's the only place. They should not be in a place, you know, of reverence.
We should be paying our tax dollars on the upkeep.
Because the Confederacy fought against the United States of America.
That's right.
They were the enemies of this country. I don't, whether they were your brothers or sisters or not, that does not reverse the fact that these people fought to destroy this nation. And so we have to keep all of that kind of stuff into proper perspective, you know, and then they were created, the KKK and all these people and the Confederacy people to terrorize Black people.
Yeah, people got to remember.
And that was the only reason for maintaining these monuments and all of this stuff. It was simply to terrorize Black people and people of color. And Jeffrey Robinson talks about the truth of all of this stuff. And he does it in such an eloquent way, you know, that doesn't insult, but just lays it out. You know, you got to quit. We have to quit living lies. We've got to bring out the entire truth of the nation. He said, until we get it on the table and deal with it as it was, you know, we won't be able to fully enjoy freedom. You know, we won't be able to advance ourselves in this nation, and we will always have these racial problems that we're experiencing now. And I think for the first time, systemic racism is really on the table finally. And I think it's going to be addressed in the coming years. I think the problem that we are having with police brutality is going to be addressed. Colin Kaepernick so eloquently tried to enlighten the nation to what was going on. And instead of listening to what he said, and he said out of his mouth, what I am doing is to bring attention and to protest the killing of innocent citizens of color by the police. There have been too many times over the past years that Black people have been killed by the police who didn't have a weapon, who was no threat, didn't have any crimes going on. He said, I'm bringing attention to this situation, but what people decided that they wanted to hear is you hate America and you hate the flag. And this is what they used. When another thing that had happened that I found very disturbing is this past year, there was a expression, defund the police, which I think was a bit damaging because the people who wanted to defund the police did not want to take all the money from the police department. They wanted to direct some of that money to other agencies that could deal with problems that police were dealing with that they weren't qualified to deal with. Because they will, when a person calls saying, I've got a brother who has a mental condition and he's out of control, and the police goes out and they shoot him, kill him.
All right.
No. And this happened far too many times in our country. And that's what the defund the police thing was about. So I think it has to have another slogan. I think that slogan needs to go in the garbage, because people use that slogan to say, you're going to take all the money from the police department and nobody's going to be protected. And it's just going to be anarchy everywhere.
Right.
And that's not what we're saying. And a lot of the politicians knew that, but they used it anyway. to try to say that no, they want to take all the money from the police and the police department stuff. We're not going to go to work if you're going to not pay us, and it was a lot of.
Yeah, they emotionally manipulate us,
It's
very deceitful.
powerful, man. 2020 is going to be a most interesting year. Since I haven't finished my book, I may have to put in a special chapter about 2020.
Well, I want to ask you about 2020 because we lost a lot of people this year, especially in the jazz community, have suffered a lot in terms of iconic figures and trailblazers and pioneers. But you knew one very well, the late great Jimmie Heath. I got to get your take on Jimmie.
Jimmie.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmie Heath was probably one of, if a flower could be blossom and grow and step out of the ground and walk around, that was Jimmie Heath. Wow. One of the kindest people I've ever met in my life. Just a kind, sweet human being, and I'm so proud to say that he was my friend, and that I had a chance to enjoy him as a friend and as well, as a mentor, a person who educated me tremendously musically, influenced me greatly. But I don't, if you don't know about Jimmie, please go and research him, people. He wonderful human being. And he was 93 when he passed, and he had just finished a record. He did music all the way up until the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I met him about in 2016 in Queens in his apartment, and I mean, he had a lot of energy, man. He was very patient. You could tell he was a teacher, but he hired both John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, in one of his bands out of Philly. There's a famous picture of him with his back to the camera. There's Jimmie Heath, who was known as Little Bird because he started on alto, had a sound like Bird, but he switched to tenor. But there's a picture of Charlie Parker soloing and John Coltrane looking up in awe, whatever, Charlie Parker. But Jimmie got his back to the camera. But it was amazing to meet that guy because he definitely was patient, and he was working in a group with some brothers from Baltimore, I believe in their 30s. So I learned from him, in order to stay young, you gotta deal with the young people. And then then each one teach one. Because it's not about you being the elder and this person being the younger. In jazz, all things are equal. You learn from everybody and from each other. Like I talked about that album I love from Duke Ellington called Money Jungle, where he had younger guys like Charles Mingus and Max Roach, who were the GOATs and arguably the GOATs at their position, but they paid homage to the elder, and the elder was open to receiving the gift from these guys and how they reinterpret his standards. Because Duke Ellington is the most recorded jazz composer of all time. The second is Thelonious Monk, but Duke had a greater output than Thelonious. He wrote over thousands of songs, but Thelonious had a small output according to Duke, but it is an amazing canon of work because Monk's stuff is so unique, it's so rewarding. I mean, he is really a gift to horn players like saxophonists and trumpet players who could play Monk stuff. It's timeless, it's relevant today, and I thank him for having the tenacity and the will to stick it out, to sacrifice for his art. So y'all should check out that documentary, Straight No Chaser, on that. And somebody said, no disrespect, I don't give a damn what you tired of. Go to another channel. No disrespect. You wish you could have a legacy like a Jimmie Lunceford. Because this is why we talking about some of the stuff we talk about now, because he put the show in Showtime. He put the show in show business. This man, Jimmie Lunceford Orchestra, was made for TV where there was no TV to be had. He was the #1 band for Black people in America. How can a person be the #1 band for Black people? He was bigger than Duke Ellington and Count Basie and all them guys while he was alive, and now he's forgotten about, or a footnote. Unless you talk to a Black person in their 80s or even 90s, they can recall Jimmie Lunceford. So this is why we got to tell our story and reclaim that narrative.
Did I hear someone that was gave you some negative?
Yeah, like so he said, I'm no disrespect, but I'm tired of hearing about Jimmie Lunceford. Well, get off the channel, man. We not hold you hostage, Now it's like you have trolls, but they your fans too. Sometimes your haters are your biggest fans. But Jimmie Lunceford's not talked about enough. That's the problem.
Well, see, in my opinion, a lot of people that are not talked about enough. You don't hear about Jimmie enough and know enough about his music. And what they don't know about Jimmie, Jimmie was a wonderful lyricist too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he won now on I don't know the name of the record. I wish I had it right now, but he did a record with Roberta Gambarini singing a lot of his music that he wrote the music and the lyrics to.
You talking about Jimmy Heath, right? I want to get it like people.
I'm talking about Jimmie Heath, yes, not Jimmie.
Yeah, I was talking about Jimmy Lunceford when they said don't disrespect. I don't want to hear no more about Jimmy Lunceford. But yeah, Jimmy Heath, he's very humble. He was a humble guy. He wrote his own book too. He wrote his autobiography.
Yes,
you got to write your. He wrote his story. He made sure for posterity. He wrote it.
Yeah. There are so many others, man. Like you don't hear, in my opinion, you don't hear enough about Slide Hampton, who is a great writer. You don't hear enough about Thad Jones.
There you go.
And Thad Jones was the one that made me want to write big band music. That was hearing his band.
Now, was he one of the Jones brothers? Is he part of that group? Like Elvin and Hank?
Hank Jones, Elvin Jones. I think they all were brothers. Hank.
Oh, yeah, because Hank Jones is from. I think he was born in Vicksburg, but I think Elvin was born in Michigan. But the other brothers were born in Michigan.
Yeah, Thad was the one that made me want to write. Slide, I wanted to study with him, and whereas I never really studied with him. I was around him, and he did influence me, and he did help me in a lot of ways. You know, I think the reason that he didn't sit me down and teach me because he didn't want me to write the way that he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want me to be a carbon copy of him. He wanted me to try to find my own voice, and I've attempted to do so. I don't know, you know, the things that I'm writing now. He has a great admiration for it. He kind of likes it now, but we celebrate certain people, and I dare not say we celebrate them too much, but we celebrate them to the point that we don't always have room for so many others.
That's right.
My contemporaries. So we got to try to figure out a way, you know, to bridge that so that we don't leave out people, you know, who have made contributions to the music, who've done wonderful things, you know, musically, you know, that some of us have heard and some of us haven't.
Well, it's like you look at Fletcher Henderson. I love Fletcher Henderson. He's the father of the large jazz orchestra. He don't get enough credit. And I remember they released some of his songs some years ago called "A Study in Frustration." To be that brilliant and that gifted, but to be that limited by how society views you and limit your options. Because look, the stuff that Benny Goodman used to become the so-called king of swing, these were arrangements by Fletcher Henderson that he gave to Benny that he was doing in the 20s. Yeah, we were doing this stuff. He's like, y'all just now catching up to where we was at in the early 20s.
Yeah, well,
so it had to be frustrating to be Fletcher Henderson. I love his stuff. I still listen to it today. It's still fresh today.
I hear you, man. I love it all. You know, I do. And so,
okay, I'm gonna get you out of here. I know we worry about that souffle or something over there.
No, man.
Yeah.
I'm cooking a couple ducks.
Okay, yeah.
And I have a real special thing. You know, like I said, cooking is my number one hobby, man. I enjoy it and I enjoy sharing it. But I have a good friend who's in from California.
Okay.
You know, and they asked me to prepare, you know, a couple for them, you know, and I remember we were going to do this, and when I didn't hear from you before 12, I said maybe he's going to do it on a different day, and I started that. I would have started this.
I understand. That's cool.
I had started. I had to.
But I thank you for honoring it. I don't want to keep you. I respect that.
Look, where am I going? Well, maybe you didn't hear. You know, there's a pandemic out there. I don't.
Oh man, we're gonna do this again. I really enjoy you, brother Bobby. We're gonna do this again, man. I'm interested in the cookbook thing because it does sound pretty good right about now.
Yeah, well, now that you're introducing me to even more people from Memphis, you know, that have made significant contributions, you know, to this music thing. That's another perspective, because I really would like to, or part of my legacy would be, I would like for it to be that I left something in Memphis behind, you know, to help some kind of way. So influence or something, you know, that helps people, you know, that will come behind me.
Well, we got to bring you back here to do a night to honor you with your big band arrangements or something. We got to make that happen.
Well,
While you here, hell, not
yeah,
like
well,
later while you here.
hurry up.
You taking good care of yourself. You think you social distancing
I'm in
and taking
pretty
your
good shape,
vitamins
man,
and
but
supplements.
I got some pains I don't talk about.
And we all just it come with the territory. You right.
It comes with the territory. You stay on this planet, you know, they'll show
I'm
up.
learning that now.
You know, I will be with you, you know, at intimate, you know, times of your life.
Yeah.
So,
So you all blessing, man. How can we like listen to your music or get in touch with you? How can the people reach out to you?
Oh gosh, just keep. I go by Robert Bobby LaVelll Garner, on social media. I was born Robert LaVelll Garner. I've been performing as Bobby LaVelll for many years. You know, and when I started to set up my social media stuff, I set it up this way so people from my past and people from Memphis can find me. So you'll find me. I'm gonna be doing a few more things, social media wise. You know, and Ron, of course, I will keep you abreast.
Yeah, please do.
And I got somebody who's going to help me with that because I am still a bit social media challenged.
I heard that. Yeah.
You have to remember, I'm after Sesame Street. You know, I didn't.
You got some young people in your family. You got some nieces or nephews or somebody to help you out with that.
They did it, but I didn't. You know, you know what I did. You know, well, we won't talk about that. I don't want to talk about that because that's the ugly side. But there'll be a time for it.
Yes, sir.
You know, what I want to mention, you know, is that I did involved in a project right now that people you might want to find some people, or I'll give you the people to talk to, you know, that they might want to bring it to Memphis. It's the No Tears Suite. It's a suite of music written by Chris Parker, and it commemorates the integrating of Central High School, and it brings light to the Little Rock Nine. I don't know how much you know about that, but in 1957, 9 black kids integrated Little Rock High School, and they it was a tremendous undertaking for them, and they just went through what you can't believe, the horror that they went through. So you might want to find somebody who wants to bring that project, you know, to Memphis, and that's one way you get me there. And if you get me in there, you know, it's hard to get me out because that's home and I know where to hide.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this. I mean, you've been doing it for so long. Are there any contemporary? This is a great question from DeAndre Mosley. Do you think there are any contemporary innovative black artists in jazz that are pushing the medium forward? I guess it means like young people out there, young lions. Anybody you follow or listen to that you could provide?
Oh gosh, he's not very well recorded. God, and I turned my phone off. So there's a young man out of Memphis, man, a piano player. Oh gosh, I would see and turning my phone on to see. I promise to have some names the next time we talk about that.
Oh yeah, I'll just share it later. Yeah,
because there's some people I would hate to leave some out that I am yet to meet too. So I want to try to. But I don't even know all the guys who are from Memphis right now. I've been going for quite a while. You know, I'm doing everything I can to keep my my contacts in Memphis. As I said, you know, my real passion now is to give back. You know, to bring some young people into the music, but without having a direct contact with somebody right now, you know, who's well, it's very difficult to do right now because of the pandemic. You know, we had things that were pending that we had to abandon. And once again, I'm almost at the end. It's funny that we're ending and I'm ending in there too.
All right. Okay. Well, life is jazz. There's no such thing as coincidence. I'm thankful that we could have the great Bobby LaVelll with us today to talk about his life journey and also his thoughts about anything and everything, because he is the 2020 Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival Homecoming Court King. So it was a pleasure to hold court with this man who is, you know, a wonderful human being, a humanitarian, because I remember several times that I saw him give back at Manassas High School, his school of origin, to them young people to try to encourage and inspire them through the gift of music and song. So I mean, you very much an unsung, but you keep on playing your blues and your jazz the way you know how, brother Bobby LaVelll. Now, where did Bobby LaVelll come from? I'm just curious now.
Huh?
Where you get the Bobby LaVelll name?
LaVelll is my middle name. I was born
LaVelll. Okay.
LaVelll Garner.
Okay, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
good
I've
to
been
know.
performing as Bobby LaVelll for the last 30, 40 years.
Okay, that's great
And
stuff.
it came about because I was doing some singing at one time. I wrote a lot of popular songs. So, in fact, the next time we do it, I'll play some of them for you.
Oh, excellent.
I have them. I don't really do much of it anymore, but I did the songs and I do have them.
Oh, excellent.
So we'll see. We'll create a nice little show and try to give the people out there a little clear idea of my musical contributions.
Well, we thank you so much, man. I mean, you keep on going on, keep on blowing it, keep on doing it, keep on composing it, arranging it by any means necessary. We appreciate you, buddy, Bobby LaVelll, 2020 Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival Homecoming Court King, and rightfully so. So, in the words of Great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. You keep on producing and pushing.
Absolutely, and a very, very happy New Year to all out there. Be safe. Be happy. And remember, happiness is a choice.
That's right. Yes, he does. You are a true treasure. Mr. Gardner shines a bright light on the real history and culture of Memphis. He is really an ambassador of the Memphis sound. We appreciate him so much.
Thank you very much, man. Look here, Ron, thank you so much. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to get you back here some type of way. I'm going to give you a plaque in your hand. I mean, 2021 will have to be better. I'm going to make sure it's better. I'm going to pray that it be better.
I'm sure it will. It will. Mm-hmm. I'm a born optimist.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's important to be optimistic. You have to look up. Well, I learned that when I started to live into my successes instead of my failures, my life got better.
I love that. That's words to live by. Wisdom right here. You living, you ain't living in vain. So I'm gonna send us off. You go ahead and tend to the duck. But I just want to play a thing you did like 10 years ago at St. John's. Is that the jazz church? That's St. John's.
I'm not sure. Let me have to see it.
It's back in August, I think 17th, 2009 or 2010. I know you did a lot of gigs.
You're actually gonna ask me about something that I did in 2010.
Yeah, I know you did a lot of gigs, but I'm gonna play it to send us off. It's in a church.
You understand the good part is that I'm not close enough to kick you. That's the good part.
Oh yeah, but I'll end it like that, and you go ahead and take care of your company and your ducks, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, I just want people to get a taste of your genius, man. Like, you're a brilliant artist, man. You just got an amazing sound. I know Jimmie Heath. When I met Jimmie Heath 4 years ago, he always talking about how important the sound was, because he was a fan of Gene Ammons. Gene Ammons.
Gina Ammons.
Yeah, Ammons. Yeah. He was a big fan of his, because he was playing some of his stuff for me with the Billy Eckstine Orchestra. I love Billy Eckstine, man. He just underrated. What he was able to do for the culture is amazing. But
man,
he was fascinated with the sound. I know you said Fred Ford taught you that big sound.
Well, Fred just told me, he said, you got to have a sound.
Mm-hmm.
He said it doesn't matter if you say what you're playing. If you ain't got no sound, ain't nobody gonna hear nothing no way. It ain't gonna matter. So he encouraged the just to have a sound. And what I have attempted to do then is to try to sound like myself and not to sound like my predecessors. In fact, I remember having to not listen to John Coltrane for a time because his sound is so beautiful. Yeah, and you can subconsciously imitate him, and that's what I was doing. I remember, I can't keep trying to sound like Train, man. You have to stop it. And so you have to make a conscious effort to sound like yourself while learning from your predecessors.
That's words to live by. Thank you so much, brother Bobby LaVelll. We love you madly. You keep on producing and pushing.
Thanks so much, Ron.
No problem. It's an honor to have you on.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. And thank you all for tuning in to another wonderful installation of the 2020 Jimmie Lunceford Jamboree Festival, the virtual edition. We got 2 more shows left in the tank. As I say, 14 shows in 14 days related to Jimmie Lunceford, the Memphis sound, Black excellence, Black music history. Because where else you going to learn this stuff from? Yeah, I like the other stuff too that we do here on We All BTV. But I think that this is very important. And sometimes the most important things to do are usually the most unpopular things to do. But when they start making movies about Jimmie Lunceford and his story, Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus, remember where you heard his legacy from first. That's We All Be TV. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Unsunken One. Thank you, sir. And yeah, I mean, who Train in the Vein? That's right, Coltrane. Another thing people don't understand, like people talk about New York and Chicago. A lot of these guys are from down south. The Thelonious Monk, before he was New York, the man was from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I want to say his folks moved up to New York when he was like 5 or 6 years old. But he's from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Before John Coltrane was Philadelphia or New York, he was from Helmet. Is it Helmet or Hamlet? Hamlet, North Carolina. Hamlet, North Carolina. His grandfather and father were ministers or preachers. So John Coltrane's basically, his music is his religion. That's his God work. So you start looking in the background, like I said, Charlie Parker Daddy, Memphis by way of Clarksdale, Mississippi. Louis Armstrong, he's from Louisiana, right? So all these kids, before they go to the city, they already got that sound, like Muddy Waters. All that Muddy Waters did was when he went to Chicago, he electrified the Mississippi Delta Blues. That's all Muddy Waters did. He's from Coahoma County. Howlin' Wolf, all them guys, right? So thank y'all for listening. Thank you, DeAndre Mosley, for the great question. Thank you. We love you all madly. Thank you, brother Squeaky G, for tuning in. You taught me about the history of Memphis. There's so much more to history of Memphis than what I talked about on the show, but it's a starter. It's a good starting point. And like I said, my time here, I want to be of use to our people. Dick Gregory said, "You the feeder. I'm gonna feed y'all. I ain't gonna always feed y'all that junk food y'all crave, but I'll feed y'all some greens and some spinach. I'll feed y'all, all that stuff, right? The good stuff as well as with the junk. You balance it out, right? So thank y'all for tuning in doing the midday for this show. Y'all really give me hope and give me energy because I don't know what I don't know. Sometimes I'm coming or going, man. I be tired and energized at the same time. But I'm glad that the people who support We All Be and the We All Be movement, and y'all give me the encouragement and the strength to carry on and to deliver to all the people out there. I'm glad y'all can appreciate the content. We all can agree to disagree, but thank you, Sister Barbara Williams from Detroit. Thank you so much for being a supporter and a fan. And it's been a tough year, man. I'm not in the rush to get out of 2020, but I'm looking forward to something else. The best is yet to come. So thank y'all. So we're gonna close it out with brother Bobby LaVelll playing at St. John's. I think it's an appropriate way to close it out. Y'all get a taste of this man's amazing artistry. He has a sound that's very distinctive and is truly beyond category. So thank you all for listening. I'm gonna close out the show like this. If you like the words from Brother Hurd, please spread the word. We All Be TV. Support the movement. Cash App, $ R2C2H2. We got PayPal, Google Pay, R2C2H2 at gmail.com. We got a Zelle account now. That's R2C2H2 at gmail.com. Or you can use our phone number, 901-299-4355. Also, Vimo your support at R2C2H2. And also, you could buy and wear Artivist art. Got with my original bird shirts on. Go down to that Teespring shelf below the description and check out R2C2H2's place. Also, you could buy Artivist art to hang up in your house or your apartment or whatever. R2C2H2.com. So thank y'all so much. We love y'all madly. And without further ado, gonna play this from one only Bobby LaVelll at St. John's Church. And we'll be back for some more stuff. Thank y'all for y'all support.